Season 7 of Sun Coaches Podcast is proudly brought to you by Titan Sensor. Season 7. That was my number in high school, so maybe this will be lucky for us. We'll see. You know, I've learned over time that when somebody's talking about something you really don't want to talk about, you just can always throw in there, hey, I knew this guy once, and then just pretty much make up whatever you want to, and they won't listen to it. They'll get off track. And you don't have to talk about the uncomfortable thing anymore. Coach, like we do every week, tell everybody where you grew up and where you're from. Sun Coaches Podcast, where not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Season 7 of Sun Coaches Podcast. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA. Proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 7, and I'm excited today to be joined by the head coach at South Gwinnett, Coach Bryan, Lamar. Thanks for being on with me.
Man, happy to be here.
Well, Coach, we talked off air before we got started about you growing up and playing and all the stuff that guys you grew up with. Where actually did you grow up and go to high school?
Well, I'm from Decatur, Georgia, DeKalb County. Growing up, we had a program called M to M, which was minority to majority, where, you know, if you stayed in the south part of the district, the way they integrated the district when they first started it was if you were, again, a minority, they could bus you to another school to the northern part of the county if they had room. So I went to Fernbank Elementary in Decatur. Was on the other side of Decatur, and then I went to Tucker High School. So I played football at Tucker, football and basketball. Had tons of success there as a player. Played for some tremendous coaches, football and basketball wise, and so just had tremendous experience in terms of that. So
who were your high school coaches?
So football, I started off playing for Mike Fuller. Who was at Tucker, who's from Arkansas, but was at Tucker, and then he went to Burke County, played for a state championship at Burke County. Then he went from Burke to Elbert County. And then he went from there to Northwest Whitfield, and then he ended up going back to Arkansas. But had tremendous success here in the state of Georgia. Terry Crowder was the defensive coordinator at that time, who went on and won state championship at Chattahoochee. So on that staff, we had some great guys. And then following him was Keith Maloof. And so I played my sophomore year, my junior year, my senior year for Coach Maloof. And really got into coaching with him when he first went over to Norcross. That was on the back half of the spring of my senior year. And so I went over there with him and, you know, got into coaching then, even though I was still going to college. I played at Tennessee Chattanooga, but before I left, when I was still in town, and anytime I would come in town, I would go over to Norcross and help out. And, so that was that part on the football end. On the basketball end, played for a guy named Jack Waters, who was a great coach, taught us a lot. But then I played for the legendary David Boyd, who won championships at Tucker. We won my freshman year. And then he went on to, he actually had won one at Campbell. He won one at Berkmar. He won one at Milton. I think he's like the only coach in the state that probably won state championships at 4 different schools as a basketball coach. And I also played for Carter Wilson, who was the head coach at Georgia State. And then came on and was my head coach my junior and senior year. We went to the finals my senior year in basketball as well. And so that background in terms of those coaches that I coached for, just such high quality guys, and taught me a lot in terms of preparation, details, all of those things I learned from those guys who all were, championship quality coaches, and just, as good a high school coaches as you could be behind. So that was, that really is the basis of my culture as a coach was playing for and playing in such a tremendous culture. I mean, at Tucker, we won, back-to-back state championships in track. We won the state championship my freshman year in basketball. We played for it. We were the number one ranked team in the state in football. We went 13-1, 11-1. Played with Patrick Pass, Corey Robinson. Some of the great guys that came from DeKalb County, and at that time, and when we played with Olympians, Dwight Phillips Jr. is playing for Georgia now, the running back. Went to school with his dad, and he's a Olympic gold medalist in the high jump, and we just had so much talent. Shenard Long was one of the top guards in the country in basketball. It was a ridiculous amount of talent, not just at Tucker High School, but in the whole DeKalb County. I mean, Southwest DeKalb had Quincy Carter and all those guys, and the track athletes they had with Angelo Taylor and all of those guys. And it was just every school. I mean, it was just, the amount of talent at that time in DeKalb was crazy. And just a great time for football and basketball and track and every other sport. I mean, it was just different back then. It was exciting. And, a lot of who I am is through that culture.
Well, I had the opportunity to work for Nick Davis at Burke County with Franklin Stevens, and they coached with Coach Fallure.
Correct.
And so I got to meet those guys and early in my career, and all the guys that you've talked about. Coach Crowder when he was with Heron down at, and then my boy Hamner went with Crowder to Chattahoochee. I remember that, and it's just cool to hear another guy mention the names that I actually know who the people are. Some of these young cats, I don't know them. But
I'm an old head when it comes to this stuff. Now, I started off as the young guy, but it's like, I mean,
it goes by quick, don't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I sit here and just start telling stories about guys, and I've been in this deal for over 20 years, and just I'm big on relationships and meeting people, and it's just like such a small world, right? So I played for Mike Fallure. I never forget when he went to Burke and they was playing in the semifinals. They were playing Clarkston in the semifinals, and they came to Tucker and they practiced there. And Michael Youngblood was playing for him, and then Youngblood went to Georgia Southern, and I went to Chattanooga. We played each other then. He was a great player, and then but he played for Fallure and Crowder and Franklin Stevens down at Camden, and then all of a sudden, I know Crowder. That's my guy. You know what I mean? He used to pick me up in the morning when I was a eighth grader and a freshman. You know what I mean? When we had morning workouts at Tucker, and so. And he knows Frank and he knows Youngblood. And all of a sudden, Frank gets the job at Tucker. I become his DC. Youngblood comes back our second year. We win a state championship together. It's just a small world, and we all have great relationships. But just the pedigree of coach. You talk about that Jeff Heron tree, which we all fall under in some way, in terms of those guys, Crowder and me and Frank and Youngblood, all of us, kind of broke off from that whole deal. So tons of guys that are connected to Jeff Heron. I mean, it's ridiculous, but just such a small world in this profession.
Yeah, I did a Legend Series in the last season, and he was one that I was able to get on, and he was just so gracious with his time and just such a gentleman of the game, and just awesome to get to talk to him. And and he was very dismissive of, like all of those old guys are. They're like, yeah, well, whatever. I don't think that way. And we're like, yeah, but come on, man. You did what you did. So, there ain't no shame in being proud of that. But let's back up a little bit. So you go to UT Chat. Did you know going into college? I mean, obviously everybody wants to make it to the league, but did you know that you wanted to teach and coach eventually, or did you want to do something else?
No, I was going to be a teacher and a coach. I don't know when I started with that dream. I mean, it came from, teaching, helping, tutoring guys in math in the classroom. And really, math was my thing. I'm a math teacher by trade. So I used to be in class, and I remember the math teacher would say, okay, start your work, and I would already be done. You know what I mean? I would be moving ahead. I had a buddy. We were in algebra. We were sitting there. We were competing, trying to see who was going to get the highest grade. I mean, we were trying to get 100 on everything, test, quiz, and just really had a passion for the math part. But I always had a passion for teaching and instructing. And obviously, I also had a tremendous passion for athletics, and that what drove everything in my life in terms of my focus, my me staying, in good standings in the classroom, me making great decisions off the field. All of that was predicated um, off of the athletic piece and wanting to stay involved. My parents, you weren't doing what you're supposed to be doing. You weren't going to be playing those sports. And so that was big for me. But when I went to college, I already knew if I didn't go to the NFL, which everybody's dream is to go to the NFL. And, but my deal, I was an education major when I was in college, so that was my deal. As soon as I finished in college, you do the tryout for the, Canadian League and all of that kind of stuff. And when all that stuff fell through, boom, came back home. I was the head coach. It was crazy. Tucker Middle School was open, and I was the head coach there. I was also coaching with the varsity at the high school. I was coaching basketball. I coached with Bill Ballard, who did tremendous things. Went to a state championship with Peachtree Ridge as a head coach, and been in the game a long time. He was a veteran. There was a lot of great guys on that staff with us there when I came back to Tucker, but just got right back into it. Like I did everything I could. I worked my butt off to be a good football player. And I tell my players, had no regret. When you give it everything you got, it wasn't like, man, if I had worked hard, I could have done it. Man, I worked as hard as I could. Let's go coach some football,
Yeah.
And so got right into coaching football and basketball, came back to Tucker High School and got right back to work and, was able to be a part of bringing the first state championship in football to Tucker. We won a basketball state championship when I was an associate head coach. Finished 24th in the country. At my time at Tucker, I played as a player and as a coach for 7 state championships, 4 in basketball and 3 in football. So, that was just a tremendous blessing my time there.
Yeah, you're making my job easy because normally I'm like, well, what was your first job out of college? But how awesome is it as an alumni when you get to go home and start your career and have the success you had as a player and also pass that on to the next group, because it's like they say, tradition never graduates.
Man, it was a dream. Well, I'm kind of a fanatic when it comes to, Tucker High School and just pride. And I'm just a prideful person, in terms of not negative pride, but just taking pride in my community and where I come from and anything that I've been a part of, I've got tremendous pride in that. And so, Tucker High School was one of those things where anybody who went to college with me, they probably got tired of hearing about Tucker High School. Like anybody that played with me will tell you, man, he's got some old Tucker stories. And I had game tapes and highlight tapes, and we'd be in the dorm and we'd be talking about how Tucker was better than any school that y'all played for and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And that was just the way it was, you know what I mean? And so to be able to, and to be able to come back and be a part of success and really get into school over the top was just one of the greatest accomplishments, of my life. Just that first football state championship after, a history of dating back to like 64, we lost in the finals, and all of the great teams that we had, the 89 team going 12-1 and losing to Hart County in the quarters, the 13-1 team losing down to Dublin in 94. 95, we were 11-1 and lost to Cedar Shows in a game that really came down to almost, basically being a state championship caliber game. And you just go on and on. I mean, 12-2 team lose the Statesboro in overtime. It was just so many challenges of a great program. With all of the players that we had and NFL players and all of that stuff, and we didn't have a championship trophy. And so being a part of getting us over that hump was just, it was great, and obviously, coming back and coaching basketball and being a part of that. And I was just a young guy. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about titles. I didn't care about none of that. I just wanted to win, whatever we got to do to win.
That's
That's old school coaching. I mean, like we painted the field, we hanging out. Man, we had a softball team with the coaches. I mean, we just love hanging out with each other. It wasn't about punching the clock and trying to get out of there and get on to the next deal. They were all older guys. Obviously, I was the youngest guy on staff. I mean, by far the youngest guy, and had some great ideas coming out of college and just being a football junkie. But just, also having to learn to be humble, learning that you're not a head coach. You better listen to what the head coach is telling your butt to do. And Tucker's just such a place it's just special. Anybody that's ever been there will tell you it's a special place in terms of the community, the people. Don't have everything. It's not a place that's got just so many resources, but it has the number one resource that you'll ever need, and that is great people. And so, that's just home for me. So all the things we accomplished there, I just, and it's just still family. I go back to games there. I go back to, spending time there just because that's home for me,
So after your time at Tucker, what was your next stop?
So interesting. So I was at Tucker. I got to Tucker in 2004. I came back home, graduated in the spring of 2004, and then started coaching there. And I coached football and basketball there up until 2011, 2012 season. And that year, I took a head basketball job at Stockbridge. And so I actually got out of football for a year. It's crazy. I was, I was so immersed in football and basketball and all of that stuff. And I said, man, I'm trying being a head coach and try something different. And after 1 year at Stockbridge, I came back and became the athletic director and head football coach at Tucker when Frank left and went down to Lamar County. And so came back to Tucker. And so I was the head coach there from 2012 until the COVID year in 2021. And, then I came over to South Gwinnett, and that was it. So that's the only two places I've really been football-wise and I coached for a year in college. So I did coach at Chattanooga in that 2004 season. The 2003 season, I coached college football. And then, that was it,
So what are some things, like your first head coaching job obviously was basketball, but your first football, they're essentially the same. It's just smaller numbers. You're dealing with the same kind of headaches. And I was telling you about my guy the other day, that I work with, and he was like, I don't know, coach. And I'm like, and me and the head basketball coach like, nah, man, you got the same headaches. It's just instead of dealing with 20 kids or 30 kids, you're dealing with 100 kids.
Right.
So, but you're dealing with the same stuff. So your first head coaching job, you're the head coach and athletic director. How much of a challenge was that for you, even though you'd been prepared by, some of those old heads that were some of the legends of the game?
Yeah, so you can't ever be prepared to be a head coach. Like I guess you can't be more prepared. You got to remember, I'm 30 years old, and I'm taking over a state championship program, right? So, so that was a tough deal. And you're following Franklin Stevens, right? And so as good a football coach as you're going to find, just detailed in every phase of every part of everything that's going on. And so it's a tremendous act to follow. It's not like you're going to take the job and say, hey, man, they've been doing it wrong. And I'm going to fix all of this. We just went 15-0 and won a state championship. Now, the positives and the negatives were I was a part of all of that culture building, right? So I was a part of that, building that culture and establishing that championship pedigree, because I was the defensive coordinator. And so there was some familiarity, but it still was being a young guy. And that first year was tough. And I understand, my first year as head coach, we go to the quarterfinals. We're playing Northside Warner Robins, and we have this, I was telling somebody about it, one of the greatest rivalries, the greatest rivalry I've ever been a part of. And it was just back and forth between us and Northside. And the year before we win the championship, we picked the ball up in the end zone, right? It's a 16-10 game with Northside going in to basically seal the game and go up 23-10. And they fumbled the ball from the 1 into the end zone. Justin Rivers picks it up and runs it 100 yards for a touchdown. We win the game 17-16 and win the finals the next year. And so here we go. The next year we're going, and we got to go to Northside in the quarters, and we lose. We score with about a minute left, and then they score. They score with 6 seconds left on the clock on 4th and 6 to beat us. And so that year, even though we had some good success coming off a state championship, that was a down year. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was just tremendous challenges in terms of following those guys, were following Coach Stevens and the standard that he set, and being a young guy and being new to it all, right? Because again, everybody thinks you're going to get in there and, call some defensive plays and offensive plays and special teams. And, you don't know you're going to, parents and everything you're doing is being criticized. And
Yep.
I mean, it's stuff that I didn't know. I used to get so upset with my coaches because I had guys that I coached with, that we were best friends when I was an assistant. And then I became a head coach. And now I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I tell them guys, I can't see everything. If y'all see something, you got to bring it to me so I can address it. And I learned a lot in that first year, and everybody does. I mean, the most growth you get is from that first year to that second year. And that second year, we went 14-1 and played for a state championship. But it was, you can never be prepared for it. You're gonna have to get in there and roll your sleeves up and work as hard as you can, and you'll grow from it.
Oh, that's right. There ain't no doubt. That's one thing. It's baptism by fire.
Oh,
Because when you
100%.
get in there and you got to deal with James' mama and them and whoever else, and this one called, and Coach, I ain't gonna be able to make it today because I got the doo-doo virus, or you got a parent calling you in the middle of the night. He's out running the roads and I can't do nothing with him, and you're like, really? He lives with you. You can't say that, but you're like, all right, I'll go get him. And you're trying to help him raise the kids, whether it's the dad or the mama. The other night we had a father called, and he was like, my son, it's homecoming week or whatever, and he's like, hey, my son's up here acting up, whatever. And it's just weird to me because, we're old. Me and you, we old heads now. And it's like, do what? No, man, you got to deal with that.
Correct.
But, it's a little bit different when you're the head coach, and it's like, you remember what it was like when we were, and I'm that way now because I have no aspirations of being the head coach again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, you're looking for Coach Lamar. He's right over there. That's who you're looking for.
Oh yeah.
I've got to go sweep up a locker room and take some kids home is what I got to do.
Yeah, man. It's
I got some laundry I need to see too.
Yeah, man. It's like I said, the buck stops with you, and that's what you really can't be prepared. It's you can help the head coach out as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you're still not in those shoes, And I tell my players and coach all the time, I say, hey, man, it don't matter what y'all do, nobody really cares. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, on Saturday morning when they open that paper, is South Gwinnett score. South Gwinnett this, the opponent that, you know what I mean? And that's under Coach Lamar's name. They don't want to hear about who was sick. They don't want to hear about, who didn't fix this or who didn't fix that or who didn't come to practice this week. Nobody cares about that. It's a results-driven business at the end of the day.
Coach, I tell young coaches, I'm like, when they used to have the Georgia Scoreboard show on Friday night and Coach Palmer did it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, look, guys, they're not going to say Chris Lamb's Tucker Tigers tonight on that radio show. They're going to say Bryan Lamar's Tucker Tigers beat Brookwood tonight. Mm-hmm. That's what they're going to say. So you do what he tells you to do. Because he's the one that's going to take the heat for everything.
Yep.
From the administration, from the community, from the state, from the media. And, those relationship pieces that you have to build with administrators and stakeholders in your program is just something that, like you said, you can have books, you can go to clinics, you can talk to people, but until you actually experience it, and that's really the only way you can learn, I think.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's just things that, you sit in a meeting and you say, okay, Johnny didn't do this, and you want to have a coach saying, Coach, we need to just punish him. We need to kick his butt off the team. We need to do this. We need to do that. But though, you don't understand that whatever decision you make is now the standard. You know what I mean? Whatever decisions that you make, they have ongoing consequences in terms of accountability, right? If one kid does something, and another kid does the same thing, he gets a different consequence. You got some problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and that's across the board in every decision you make. You know what I mean? It's not just simple all the time. Okay, is administration gonna back you on this? You know what I mean? Or it's a lot of different things that go into the decisions that you have to make. You know, everything from financially, is it gonna make sense in terms of our budget? You know, decisions that I make. You know, it's a lot of things that at this point it's kind of on autopilot. It don't really bother me. My brain just kind of rolls. But starting out, you constantly thinking about stuff. You know what I mean? You know, you don't want to leave make sure you got somebody bringing the footballs to the damn game. You know,
Yeah.
I put that on the checklist. You know what I mean? Just now I kind of have, I've been doing it for so long that it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of on autopilot. You know those things, but it's years of experience that it takes. You know, even in terms of just managing the game and how all of these things are going on. And, I admire, coaches. I still, watch other guys and see how they do it. Man, I'm constantly learning, trying to get better. Like I never stop learning and trying to get better. Like every day I'm trying to be a better head coach, because you just can't. It's always evolving. Players are evolving. It's a lot, man.
So you were part of building that culture there. And alumni, you played there, coached there, won there. So when you take over as the head coach, what were some things that you did to kind of, it's still Tucker, but it's Coach Lamar's Tucker?
Yeah, man, it was a lot of things that we just carried over. Now, my personality is my personality, so I'm just different. Every coach is different, in terms of that. And I'm a Tucker guy, so that's different too. You know what I mean? I was there before Coach Stevens got there. You know what I mean? Right. So I was on the staff, and then when he came, man, he blessed me tremendously with giving me an opportunity. I mean, we were talking on the phone while he was kind of going through the interview process. Somebody had connected us, and we were just talking. Right? I'm just a young guy talking ball with him, and we talk for hours. We just talking ball, and all of a sudden he gets the head coaching job, and he says, "You're gonna be my defensive coordinator." And I didn't ask for it. I didn't send him a bunch of plays or a resume, none of that. I mean, he talked ball with me. He kind of saw how detailed I was and how passionate I was. And I'm forever indebted to him because he gave me an opportunity. I mean, it wasn't, hey, I need a coordinator and he was looking for guys. I mean, he saw some potential in me and gave me an opportunity. And so, when he first came, we used to bump heads a lot because he had a realistic attitude about where Tucker football was. And I probably had an unrealistic attitude because in my eyes, there was nothing bigger than Tucker football, and he would come and tell us, as a program, y'all, we ain't validated. We ain't won nothing. All of that stuff y'all talking about, y'all won. Y'all got 0 rings and 0 championships, To me, it still was a place of tremendous pride because I'm a Tucker guy. This is not just me taking on a new job and a new challenge. This is home for me. And so my time at Tucker, I think I always had, not only am I a head coach, but I'm family. You know what I mean? I'm one of you guys in terms of this means a lot to me. So when I bring people in to talk to the team, when I address the team, I'm addressing it, and I'm a historian, right? So I'm telling stories about 94. I'm telling stories about 89. I'm telling stories about, teams of the past, you know what I mean? So I can hold you accountable on a whole nother level. I know the history of this program. And so I thought that was tremendous in terms of my connection with the players in the community, right? When I'm at the game, I got classmates coming by. I've got people that taught me still in the building. I've got people that kids played with me, you know what I mean? So it's just, I thought my connection to the community was tremendous. And everything I did was not only to win games and help kids, but to continue the culture and tradition at that school. So, that was kind of the deal.
So when you decided to move on and go to the next challenge, I imagine COVID had a lot to do with making that decision as well, the opportunity to go to South Gwinnett. What prompted that?
There's a lot of things that went into that. you talk about a guy that, I became a head coach, I guess, around, 30 years old, 31 years old. Played my first state championship. I think I'm like 31, 32, something like that. Within my second year, I went to a finals. And, went to the state championship, twice, one region, maybe 5 out of the 6 years I was head coach there. Did a lot of great things. Had, even as athletic director, my girls basketball team won a state championship. There's a lot of good things going on. But to be honest with you, no one gave me an opportunity outside of Tucker. Like, there was no schools that was offering me jobs or saying, hey man, we want to, it was some schools that brought me in and interviewed me, but there was, South Gwinnett is the only school that ever has offered me an opportunity to even get another chance, to be honest with you, to be a head coach. And so at one point, and I never submitted, I was never trying to leave Tucker. You know what I mean? There would be, people would call sometimes and say, hey man, you want to come in and talk ball with us? And we got an opening. And, being in the cab, you don't get paid a bunch of money. And obviously it's not a place that most people are going to ride their careers out. There was two factors. One, it just wasn't a lot of kids. Like, Tucker was a place where it was a great program, great community, but it wasn't always a ton of talent in the community. Like, if somebody had to move in, you know what I mean? And I'm not talking about recruiting. You were just sitting back saying, man, I hope we get a guard next year because we're going to be in trouble. We just didn't have a lot of guys at the middle school. I'm talking about getting 15 eighth graders coming over from the middle school trying to have a ninth grade team. You know what I mean? It's just not the numbers. My last year at Tucker, I had 13 seniors, right? I got 13 seniors. And because of the standard that we set in, nobody wants to play you non-region. My non-region schedule my last year at Tucker was the Decula opening game coming off the semifinals. It was Cedar Grove coming off the state championship. It was Collins Hill with Travis Hunter and those guys who won the state championship. It was Parkview coming off the semifinals. And it was Southwest DeKalb coming off back-to-back region championships. That was my non-region schedule with 13 seniors. Then my region schedule was Langston Hughes. It was Westlake, Langston Hughes, and Lovejoy were my top guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a brutal schedule when I got 13 seniors. And it just got to a point where I was frustrated with, no one's a good enough coach. These guys can coach. This is Georgia football. This ain't, you going out there and out coaching everybody. That's not going to happen. You got to have Jimmys and Joes. You know what I mean? And so I just felt like, and at the time, and now Tucker is in, 4A. It's not as bad, but at the time, we're in the second highest classification. I got one of the smallest schools. It was just a bunch of challenges with that. And then, like I said, just wanted a bigger opportunity to grow a program. So, and South Gwinnett was really the only place that gave me an opportunity. So, I was blessed for that. And it was a place that, I don't think people, think the South Gwinnett is a great program. And so we were kind of like, I don't got a bunch of opportunities. People not, thinking this is a great place. Let me go and take on another challenge and do some different things. And so it has been a challenge. And but we're growing tremendously, as a program. And I've grown just so much as a coach here. We haven't won any championships yet. We haven't been in the deep playoff runs yet. But my growth as a coach has just been tremendous in terms of continuing to try to build that championship culture and pedigree here. And we've done a good job, but the job isn't done yet.
So when you got there, what did you look at and say, all right, this, I'm going to take my blueprint from what I did at Tucker. I mean, I know everywhere is different, but as far as your base culture, weight room, staff kind of stuff, I mean, is that initially when you went in and said, all right, here's what I got to do to get it my way?
Yeah. So when I got here, well, here's the thing. Here was one challenge. At the COVID year at Tucker, I only had like 6 coaches. So I didn't have that many coaches, and they didn't let us play the first 5 games of the season. It was a lot of challenges with that. Just tremendous. When I came to South Gwinnett, I only brought one coach with me. from Tucker. And so I built an entire new staff, new everything. We had been wing T at Tucker. We had to change that just from it was becoming a problem at Tucker. People didn't care about the winning part. It was, I don't like this, I don't like, you know what I mean? And so you can try to fight that battle all you want in Metro Atlanta, but you better have a place where people want to come and play. You know what I mean? Because everybody's just negatively recruiting your kids. You don't want to play in that system. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. And it's just a place where people can go somewhere else. You know what I mean? They'll find a house, find an apartment, figure out a way to go to a different program. So when I came out here, I had been a traditional 3-3 stat guy. We went to the Iowa State stuff, the 3 high stuff. That was good. Went to power spread offensive stuff. That was good. And just had a new group of guys. So it was fresh energy. That was exciting. But the nuts and bolts of the football part was going to be the same. Like we were going to play fast. We were going to play physical. We were going to work our butts off on details. Everything that we were doing at Tucker, we did here. It was just on a bigger level in terms of the number of kids and then the number of coaches, the number, the facilities and how we could use our time better. So all of that stuff was better in terms of that. We didn't have the championship culture, which has been the toughest thing. It's just been tremendously difficult in terms of building the mentality of how we have to practice and how detailed we have to be successful. That's still an ongoing process. But my first year here, the kids were so hungry and they were so excited. And I didn't have a lot. I mean, I only had 6 juniors my first year in 6A football. I had 19 seniors. They hadn't gone to the playoffs in 3 years. They hadn't had a winning season since 2016. And so it was a lot that had to be done. But, man, I'm talking about those kids played hard for us. And we went 5-6 and lost in double overtime to McEachern as a 4th seed on the road in the playoffs. But, I mean, we lost to Grayson 17-14. We lose to Norcross 7-0. We lose to Parkview 21-4. I mean, we could have very easily won 8 or 9 games my first year just from buy-in from the kids and the parents and the community. So, it's been the same thing. Like I look, it has evolved in terms of our practice plans and how we do things, but it's been the same thing. I mean, we're going to be physical. We're going to be detailed. We're going to coach our kids up. Again, weight room stuff has changed a little bit, but it's still, the basis is still the same on how we do it. So still bring them in, for morning agilities in the spring, at 5:30 we get after it. All of the stuff, the nuts and bolts of our program is still the same. Some of the details have just changed a little bit in terms of the schematic part of it, but we're still going to be detailed, and we're going to play fast on defense and get after it on special teams and be physical as we can offensively. So,
well, I know that was it last year that you beat Brookwood, and that was a big write-up in the paper and big rivalry game and stuff like that. And there's probably, even though as historic as the South Gwinnett program has been, as you said, when you came in, they'd fallen on some hard times, hadn't had success they had in the past. So even though, I'm sure there's some things that most places that you go in and you do something, you're like, see, you can do this. It's, you may have never beaten them before, but we can't say that now. And you had a tough game with them a couple of weeks ago. That was another, near 1-score game, 10-0. And, it just goes to show that you're, going in the right direction. I mean, you guys are 2-2 right now going into this week. And, you've lost to 2 good football teams. It's not like you lost to 2 boo-boos when you played them.
Listen, I tell people it is one thing that I know is that no one is seeing us on the schedule and saying that's going to be easy. You know what I mean? Like that's not, you're going to have to come here and fight. And, in every game that you play against us, you know what I mean? Now we don't, our challenge here is still, we've got some really good players. And then we've got some players that still, I tell people, like, we got some kids that are exactly what you want in players. Like they are fast, they're physical, they're tough, they're locked in. And then we got some kids that probably don't care as much as they need to care for us to be successful. And we just haven't quite got to the point numbers wise where we don't have to play kids that have not cared. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not saying they don't care today. They didn't care as a freshman, as a sophomore, and a junior. Now they're a senior, and they want to care now. But you didn't work as hard as you need to do in the weight room. You was trying to skip every practice you could. And now as a senior, you're underdeveloped. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we ain't got nobody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we still have a couple of kids like that we play. And it's more so about injuries and stuff. So as we get like when we played against Brookwood a couple of weeks ago, and we only returned one starter on offense. So that's been a challenge, getting 10 new players acclimated into a system. But also we got 3-4 linemen out playing against those guys who are tremendous on defense. And so, we got 2 guys that played their first game last week against Valdosta. That ain't really the place you want to play the first game. You know what I mean? So we'll get better over these next 3 weeks, hopefully, and be able to build some. But, I mean, we're going to get after it. We play hard. Like last year was a big step because we had a winning season. We went 7-4. It was the first winning season since 2016. Got back to the playoffs. And again, we're in a dogfight with everybody. I mean, we're not, we're in a dogfight with Hillgrove. We didn't finish as close as it was, but you're talking about a 21-14 game going into the fourth quarter. It's been, we're in all of those games and just trying to get the kids. Like once we get to a point where our talent and our preparation are all on the same page, we'll be in great shape. And it's just a process, but we get in there.
Oh, yeah.
But with Brookwood, and we've been in a fight with Brookwood. My first year, we didn't have the game wasn't close. I thought they got after us. After that, though, I mean, we get stopped on the 2-yard line to win the game. And then the next year, we're winning the game, and we miss a sack on the last play of the game, and they throw a touchdown and then go for 2 and beat us by 1. And so, and then we win the next year. But we've had a chance to beat them every year. But it's just one of those things where ain't nobody giving no games away around here, And that's the other point that probably is that, this is not an area where, it ain't good football. You walk in any direction is a heck of a football team in the football program. And that was a challenge here, was that so many kids didn't want to be here and they were other places. And we'd go play Parkview and they'd say, yeah, those 6 kids supposed to be at South. You go to Grayson, those 5 kids supposed to be at South. You play Brookwood, those. And you're like, dang it, man, we would be really good if we would have had all of those kids. And it wasn't like they just transferred over there. They just weren't playing in our cluster, you know what I mean, and did whatever and moved on. And so when I first got the job, they said, man, you're never going to win there because everybody's going to keep taking all your kids. And so we just, kind of rolled up our sleeves and got into the middle schools. We've got to, everybody's going to lose kids. I don't care who you are. I mean, there ain't no team in the state that ain't going to lose a kid for whatever reason because the dead don't like the dang, quarterbacks coach. It don't matter, so but we've been working hard on trying to keep as many kids in Snellville as we can. So that's been good. But when you got such tremendous programs around you and you're winning 3 games and Grayson going 15-0 and Brookwood ain't too far removed from a state championship, and Parkview's got what they got. I mean, that was the challenge, trying to get everybody to buy into being here,
Yeah, I tell people all the time about it because I've made no bones about it. I ain't no Metro guy. I don't even like going to Atlanta. I think Sherman was on to something when he set the place on fire. I don't like traffic. I don't like people, but I have the utmost love and respect for my brothers up there that are coaching in the metro area because of the absolute wild, wild west atmosphere that modern high school football has turned into. You can throw a rock out of South Gwinnett High School and hit 5 or 6 schools. And if, like you said, if the quarterback coach is pissed off to daddy, he could be, after spring break, he may be somewhere else. And, it's just one more thing you got to worry about that, like where I'm at now in a rural area, they're not going anywhere. And I was like you said when you were at Tucker, you're like, man, I sure hope we have a running back move in, or or left tackle, because the next 2 get hurt, we're gonna have to move somebody. You start looking crazy at each other.
I'm telling you, man, that's just the And psychologically, that's the toughest part. I mean, it just, like even with what we've done here, and we've lost some tremendous players. Even from last year's team, where we go 7-4, you finally get it going. We got a decent group come back, and we lose players. And I'm talking about you winning games, you're competing at a high level, even the games you're losing. We signed 17 kids last year. We signed 17 kids the year before that. I'm talking about out of 24 kids. I mean, we're signing almost our entire class. We're finding a place for our kids to play. We got kids going as LSU and Florida and Vanderbilt and some of the top schools. And then we also got guys going to Bryan Hart. And, we're just figuring it out. I mean, we're working hard to make sure we get our kids in school. The year before that, we had 13 seniors. We got 10 out of the 13 in school. My first year, we had 19 seniors. We got 13 in school. And so with the whole recruiting piece and offer piece being such a big deal, we're winning games, we're winning more games every year. We're getting more kids in college every year. And it's still parents and players that unhappy. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. Like, we up here all night working our butts off. We're doing everything we can. No, we're not perfect, but we love these kids, and the coaches love them. We're pouring into them. We're doing everything we can. And just because something might not be going the way that you want it to do, because you got an unrealistic expectation, they're going to pack up and go. And that's the hard part. You know what I mean? Like when you're loving kids and you're working at such a high rate for them to be successful and for people to just be like, I don't like it. Mentally, that's the tough part for coaches. Man, I'm just telling you, it's for these college coaches, it's everywhere. It's tough when you pour your everything and someone tells you that what you're doing ain't right or it ain't good enough, or, that weighs on you, to a point where you're like, man, do you even want to do it sometimes, because when you're giving somebody, I tell my players, we're on a team. Like we all got to do something for us to be successful, right? Like coaches got 50%, players got 50%. Players can't do the coaches 50%. You can't break down the film and do all of that. You don't have the skill set. And I can't go out there and block and tackle and make those plays. You know what I mean? So we all got to bring our part. But if I'm doing 50 and you're only doing 10% of your 50, we going into a game at 60%, we in trouble. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got to do their part and believe in the system, and you can have tremendous success,
So what's some advice you would give to young coaches out there that are, aspiring to be a head coach and look up to you and your staff and guys you worked with and for that you could pass on to them? And if you're like, well, if you don't do anything else, make sure you do fill in the blank. So how would you fill in that blank?
Man, number one thing to be successful is you got to be humble. Man, this is just a game where it's so easy to think you know it all and your way is the best way. I tell you a lot of times there is no best way. You know what I mean? There's some wrong ways to do things, but there's so many right ways to do things. And so you got to be humble. You got to work hard on the details, and you got to build tremendous relationships and have good people around you. I mean, you're only as good as your staff. You can't be a know-it-all and I know everything and I don't want to listen to anybody else. And yeah, the buck does stop with you, and you got to have some core values. Like this core things as a head coach that I don't bend or break on because I know what I know, so there's a little bit of that. But you also got to always be open-minded and listen and trying to learn, and even if I don't agree, I still try to be open-minded and try to get perspective. Because that's important. You got to have good people, and you can't alienate yourself in this game. But your work ethic is going to determine how good you're going to be. And when I say work ethic, I mean, as a head coach, you got to work until it's done, right? If the field not painted and it got to get painted and ain't nobody around, you got to paint it. You know what I mean? If the uniforms got to get washed, I can chew somebody's butt about it later, but today I got to get it done. You know what I mean? And so
if there's smoke billowing out of the field house
in the middle of practice, my kicker goes, Coach, the building looks like it's on fire in the middle of special teams. And I'm just one of those coaches, like I'm involved in every freaking thing. Now I got other guys working.
What?
Yeah. And I'm in the middle of, we're doing punt, and I got my guy, this punt team guy. He's doing his thing. He's talking about details, and I'm making sure I got eyes on stuff, and everybody's got eyes. Everybody's got different parts of it, kind of the way we build it here is that, one thing that I've learned is that I make everybody do a little something. You know what I mean? Like in special teams, like punt teams got a guy, punt returns got another guy, kickoffs got a guy. Like every coach on the staff is a coordinator of a special team. And then I've got a guy over all of the special teams to make sure it's smooth. And then I'm involved in all of that. So we all are working together. And I got a guy watching maybe the left side of the punt team, the right side. I got a guy watching snappers up there. So we're all in here watching all this stuff. And the kicker goes, "Coach, it's smoke coming out the field house. I think it's on fire." I go, "What?" And I turn around, and sure enough, there's smoke coming out the building. And I'm like, holy smokes. But, go over there and got it all. It was just some stuff was in the dryer that probably shouldn't have been in the dryer and got heated. So, but that's just part of it,
One more thing that they got to get ready for that has absolutely nothing to do with the
and
game.
The thing about it is I got to lead a field, right, on a Wednesday practice, which is our most important practice, because it's situational stuff. So we are to the bottom of it to where we're doing, punt, and we're about to do punt return. We did kickoff return. We do goal line ones-on-ones, extra point field goal, all of that kind of stuff. And now we on punt return. And then I got to miss the last part of that. So now I got to, check with everybody, make sure everything was smooth with that. And then we're doing 2-minute drill. Defensive got some walkthrough stuff going on. So my coaches did a great job of stepping in. Got good guys. They went to work. I went inside, started trying to get all that figured out. And, and then got back to practice. But I mean, my assistant again, but back to the point of having good assistants. I mean, everybody ran everything smooth. When guys looked at their practice plan, continued down the list, and we got everything done. So,
well, Coach, I sure do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with everyone and the tremendous success you had as a player and as a coach, and you continue to have as a coach. You continue to love on kids and pour into the kids and build those relationships and pass on what we learned to the next group of coaches. I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with them.
Man, just happy to be on, man. It's just been a blessing. Like I've been tremendously blessed, man. Probably more than anything else. We talk about coaching, man. Like I put God first, and I'm not gonna lie to you about this. Like when things get tough and times get hard, like I know I got at least one person who's gonna always have my back, and that's helped carry me through the tough times and through the good times. Just giving them praise, and I'm tremendously blessed. Now listen, I sit down with coaches all the time and talk ball, and guys reach out to me for information and stuff. And I tell people everything that I've ever accomplished as a coach is because somebody else gave me opportunities and somebody else gave me information that I could be successful with. And so I'm always trying to pay it forward.
We sure do appreciate it, Coach. Season 7
right,
of Sun Coaches Podcast is proudly brought to you by Titan Sensor. Season 7